Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. Today's guest is, get ready for it, an entrepreneur, a growth advisor, a podcast host, a speaker, mother of four, and apparently only part human, because that is a laundry list of insanity. So we are going to dig into all that and more with today's guest, Jaime Taets. Jaime, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that is a impressive list. Holy smokes. I was doing some prep and I was like, man, is there any more stuff I can add to this list? I wouldn't be able to have a show. I just list off all the stuff you're doing.
Right. Well, so if you want to get closer, for those of you who aren't watching, maybe you should watch the gray hair and the bags under the eyes is where that comes from.
You look great. Plus you have a Coalition 9 shirt on, so I appreciate
I do.
that.
I'm rocking it today. Woo.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I was thinking about in preparation of this is that you and I are what I'm going to classify as COVID friends. So we just talked about this a couple of days ago because we met for the first time in person and we've become good friends, but all through video and phone. And so to me, I think that's a fascinating thing to think about for people that are our listeners that have met friends in the last 18 months that they might be pretty tight with. They've never met in person. It was a mind-blowing experience.
It was like, we described it, right? It was like my brain, it took a while to process. I'd never met you in person because I actually felt so connected to you because of the conversations we've had. But it was like my brain was like, like, right, trying to like process, like, he's a human. I see him. I can hug him. Right.
Super weird. It's so weird. It's so weird. So I'm super happy that that we have become friends now that we have seen each other face to face twice in the last 2 days. And I'm even more excited to have you on the show. So thank you so much. So one of the things I like to start out with is when I'm getting into the journey of things of your life is talking about where you grew up and things like that. And specifically for you, I know that you grew up in Iowa, and I think you do a good job of talking about that on both your podcast and online. But I like to talk a little bit about nature versus nurture. And you were brought up by a single mom, and your mom is a complete ass kicker rock star. So talk a little bit about that and how that nature versus nurture helped shape where you are today a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's a story, not that I don't tell, it's just that a lot of people don't know it. There's not always the opportunity. And I think you and I connected after Darren told his story and I texted him and I've known him. I'm like, I had no idea we had similar parallel early stories, right? Different, but similar. And so, yeah, my mom had me at 17. My biological dad is not in my life in any way. My dad adopted me legally at age 5-ish. And so he had been in my life, but it was just my mom and I really starting out, right? So imagine I've got my oldest just turned 18 and I just look at my kids and go, can you imagine getting pregnant at 16, right? Having a kid at 17, like you are so not prepared. But my mom was amazing and put herself through night school, right? Worked a full-time job. My great grandmother, who just passed away this last fall at 104. So we're stubborn women in our family too. We hang around for a long time. Essentially raised me, helped raise me while my mom was trying to do all these other things and build her life. And, you know, I watched my mom build her own business for 30 years in a male dominated industry, which is just badass at that time in history, right? It just wasn't something, you know, it's essentially, I always say I'm on the shoulders, right, of women, both my family, and I have a lot of female entrepreneurs in my family, that I'm on their shoulders because they did the hard work and they opened the door, well, they kicked the door open actually for the rest of us. And so it's just a unique story. And it's the reason I love people's stories so much. And I love what you're doing with this, because you're telling more than just the business story, is because it's all part of what makes us who we are. Right. And creates that in us. So, So grew up in Iowa, small town, not Darren's small town. I was the big town that Darren came to, which is just ridiculous in and of itself. 30,000 people. So I graduated with 360 some people in my class. So it wasn't small, but small enough to know I wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. What business was your mom in?
So she's financial services.
Great. Yeah.
She's
Which is
had
a
her own
super
wealth advisor, right?
right.
Literally, even today, she's in a lot of rooms where it's still all males.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So did she make a pretty good name? I think I remember you saying she made a pretty good name for herself nationally too, because she was just
right.
knocking down doors, right?
Right. She's very non-traditional in that financial advisor space, right? Higher wealth creators where you change from just the normal investment to like unique investments, right? Other opportunities, oil and gas and REITs and other things. So she's always been kind of the forefront of like, let's do this differently,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's
Yeah.
kind of push the boundaries of what that means. So
Yeah.
that's where I get it.
So I asked this question of anybody that grew up in Iowa. What was the major deciding factor, or did you not have a choice between Iowa and Iowa State?
I don't even know because it wasn't a family school. So I went to the University of Iowa, the University of Iowa, just to be clear. Um, and it was just, I don't know if I really, that's a good question. I've never been asked that because it wasn't a family school, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to go here and it's a family dynamic.
Yeah.
I went to Iowa State a couple of times, like in high school to visit people. And it was like, I remember going to their homecoming parade and there were tractors. And I was like, this is not my place. Like it's just not that I wanted to be like East Coast, West Coast, like, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I want something slightly more refined. So I know
Yeah.
I just offended all the Iowa State people, but it was just my impression.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people go to different schools for multiple reasons. Tractors,
Right.
that's the first time I've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever, who cares? So what did you go to school for?
So I went to school for really international business and then IT. Because when I was in school, right, 97 to early 2000s, it was the .com, right? And I made my decision on IT before the .com bust. That's actually when I was coming out of school, trying to find a
Right.
job in IT. But for me, it was something not like the geeky IT, computer science. It was more on the business side of operations and how IT enables. And back in that day, it was the big deal, right? It
Mhm.
was the one where you knew you could come out, right, making a pretty good salary over a finance major or an HR major or something like that. And so I decided to go down that MIS path,
Mhm.
and then added the international business and actually a minor in Spanish to that, just because I knew I wanted to work internationally if possible, or for a company that
Mhm.
was international. And so I knew I needed that degree as well.
And what was the drive behind wanting to do? Was it just you love to travel, you wanted to see the world, or was that simply it?
No, it was that I love to travel. I mean, I
Yeah.
had never left the domestic US. I'm trying to think now. No, I'd never left the US
Hmm.
domestic before going to college. And then I went into Spain for 9 months and studied abroad
It's
lived with a
great.
family that spoke no English, right? Talk about jumping into the deep end of the pool.
Right.
But it was the bug of like, okay, I need to do more of this. Like I need to see the world because, and actually all of my kids are required to study abroad. I'm not telling them where they need to go. They can make that choice, but they have to do it. And the reason is because it literally blew up my lens
Right.
of how I saw the world.
Right.
Right. I was looking
Yeah.
at the US from the outside and I was, seeing how other cultures live and what family life looks like and what business looks like. And it was probably one of the biggest paradigm shifts that I'll ever have
Right.
is doing that.
Well, I mean, what it not so like me personally too, right? Like I've lived here domestically and never traveled for business. I've traveled, right?
Mhm.
But it's just a
Right.
very different atmosphere when you're doing both business and life, and you get to see so many different aspects of, what it was that global economy and how it's evolved over time.
And even the confidence. I was just having this conversation with my 15-year-old because she and I went not last summer, but the summer before to Ecuador
Mm,
into the Amazon rainforest for 10 days with no cell phone coverage. And I mean, just backpacks and like with a tour, but to do some social mission work. And she was just a badass during that trip. Like we're in these cities and international
yeah.
airports, and she's just like, and I was thinking back to my days of like, I backpacked in Morocco, which is not a third world country, right? Not a safe place.
Yeah.
But yet I was always aware of my surroundings. Right? I have a confidence air about me. Like I was like, I'm not going to be the one you're going to want to mess with. Pick somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
But doing that international travel, even with Cargill, really built this presence, I guess I will call it, where you have to really know where you're at, what's going on around you, right? For safety, but
Yeah.
also just to be able to kind of survive in some of those environments and, make your way around. And so you see how these building blocks that you didn't realize in the moment kind of
Yeah.
show up later in life.
Yeah, I love that. And so you transitioned from school right into Cargill, which is one of the largest privately held organizations in the world. And so that allowed you to do a lot of this travel. Talk about some of the roles that you had and the things that you did in all your years at Cargill.
Yeah. So, having an IT degree, I was hired into kind of a technical role because those are the entry level roles at Cargill. And I remember having a conversation with what still to this day, one of my best leaders that I've ever reported to, 6 months in, where she was like, so let's talk. You're not an IT person. And I was like, I know. I figured it out. I'm not. Like, what do I do? Like, this is not right. The real technical stuff was not my thing.
Yeah.
And so I immediately transitioned into a business analyst, right? Something that was business facing, business relationship, translating IT speak to the business and back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to project management and program management and portfolio management, where I was working globally, right, with business division leaders on their strategy for their business and how it fit into the broader picture. And so it just was always on the business side. Like, how can I take my expertise? And I was always a translator, right? Like, I hear what you're saying and you're not hearing them. Here's what they're saying. Like, let me put it in words that you can both understand.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you start getting into leadership at Cargill? How many years did it take you or months, I guess, maybe even to get into a leadership role?
Well, it depends on how you define leadership. So direct reports, management. It was probably 5 or 6 years. I mean, it took me a while. It's a big company. I mean, and to kind of move up, there's only, and I switched jobs about every 18 months. I would get promoted or moved around, like kind of emerging leader kind of stuff. Like, let's go try this over here and try something new. But from a leadership perspective, it was almost immediate.
Yeah.
Because I tell people that, like, I was in rooms at 24, 25 years old that like people will retire from Cargill never being in. Now, I wasn't there to make decisions. I was there to take notes and listen but I just had a leader that took me with her. I mean, I rode her coattails, and I was in rooms and I think it's what really drove the curiosity for me on how leaders at that level make decisions, ask questions. What are the things they care about? That it's not the stuff you think they do, right? It's a very different perspective. And that's what's really driven my curiosity, which I think is one of my biggest strengths. Is I'm a naturally curious person about people, about business, about different industries, and I'm also easily bored. So I need that variety. I need to be constantly learning, not book learning, but like learning through verbalization and and having those conversations. So that's really where I think my leadership has shown in corporate America. And it was actually ultimately my demise in corporate America, meaning where I became really unsatisfied, because at certain level, your curiosity turns to people think you're playing political games when it was just curiosity. And I didn't even know how to play politics. Like, I didn't even know the game was being played. And I write in my book about this moment where I had a mentor who I had looked up to for like 6 years. Like, I wanted to be her. And we were in a meeting, and we came out of the meeting, and the tone of the meeting went weird. Like, I was asking questions, like natural curiosity. Have we thought about this, right? Do we need to look at this? Like, what about the people over here? How are we going to get them to understand? And the meeting took a turn, and it was kind of like, what happened? And after the meeting, she was like, just stay in your lane, play the game.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't want to be you.
Wow.
I don't want to be you anymore. So my definition of success changed in that moment. And I'm grateful for it, actually, because it ultimately was the thing that started me soul searching on, I'm not a good corporate soldier. I'm not wired for it. I'm too curious, and people take it the wrong way.
So from that point, when your paradigm flipped there, how long did it take for you to then make the decision that you needed to part ways?
It was probably a couple of years after that. And to be honest, I didn't seek to leave Cargill. I got a call from a headhunter on the right day at the right time. And in the right point where I was like, I don't know how much more impact I can have here that is valuable to me. I was at a point where I had been tossed around between 3 different leaders in a matter of 6 to 8 months, because Cargill was going through a lot of change. And I didn't take it personally, but it was almost like I got lost a little bit. And I got a call and I met with a leader that I was like, I want to come work for you. Like, I don't even care, what we're doing. Like, I went to work for a leader,
Right.
at MoneyGram International. And he left 6 months after I got there.
Oof.
And I stayed another year. But it was really, I tell people that my move, had I stayed at Cargill, I would probably still be at Cargill, because they are wonderful. It really is a great company. They trained me. They gave me so much that I was comfortable. And when I went to MoneyGram, I was super uncomfortable, right? Private to public. It was a very different atmosphere, different size of company, different leadership approach. And I think I had to go there for the kick in the pants for me to go out on my own. I don't think I would have done that at Cargill. I was too comfortable. So I think MoneyGram needed to happen, even as painful as it was while I was there, for me to really say, yeah, this thing's just not for me. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah. So were you creating what was probably the early concept of what Keystone is now at that point, or what did it come a little later?
No, I was. So I actually registered my LLC, got everything legally set up a full year before I stepped out on my own.
That's awesome.
And part of it was like, I needed to take action and I needed something. And then I started telling people, which to me is like, then other people know. And now I have to do, it was the same thing about the book. I thought about the book for 3 years and then I blurted it out somewhere with people that really know me. Like, I think I'm going to do this. And then when they started asking me, I'm like, shit, now I have to do it. But that's how I work, right? I need other people to know, to like hold my feet to the fire. And so that's kind of what happened with my own business. I didn't have the confidence. And I don't think I know, because I coach and I've coached corporate executives in this and their transition, is when you're in a corporate role, you're kind of, not that you're a robot, this is going to sound horrible, but you're like, it's just kind of laid out for you and you're kind of just, you're doing the thing. And you don't realize how smart you are or what other gifts aren't being utilized by the company. It's what a lot of companies have issues with, using the strengths of their people. And you don't have the confidence yet to just step out on your own. And I needed that confidence, but it also was just a catalyst of having a leader that wasn't so great, where it was like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. And I just quit cold turkey. Like, I'm going to take a month off. Like, I'm done.
You talked a lot, you use the term decade shift. And so every 10 years or so, maybe some people might say 7, kind of like the 7-year itch or whatever, but you use a term called decade shift. So did you experience that? And it sounds kind of like you did, like you just kind of hit these parts of your life where you were making major decisions and things were changing. And then do you also use that term and that philosophy in your coaching with people when you are working with senior executives?
I do. And I write about it in the book too, because, people talk about this midlife crisis, right? Where somebody goes out and buys a sports car and like they leave their, whatever. I don't believe that you just have a midlife crisis. I believe that you have one each decade or every 7 years, and it's not a crisis. It's just, you have these major paradigm shifts, and it's because of your stage in life. You almost can't avoid it. For some of us, it's more extreme than others, but I think it's your catalyst to make change happen. Because the most miserable people are the ones that get into their 50s and 60s and have just been steady march, just keep doing what you think you're supposed to be doing. And they get to this point of like what I call success to significance. Like, I got all the way here and it doesn't feel significant in any way. And so we have to pay attention to that along the way. And what's it telling us? What shift do we need to be making? And so that's the conversation that I have with a lot of executives.
So that's a good segue into Keystone. So I want to talk a little bit about what Keystone is. And so give me your once over. You put me on the spot yesterday. You're like, oh no, I want to hear Aaron say this. And I was like, I'm a complete gong show when it comes to trying to explain what other people do. I can barely say what I do. So talk about what Keystone is now. And then I do want to talk a little bit about what you have planned for the future.
Yeah. So if you had to categorize us, right, we're in the management consulting bucket. But we're unique in that we're a boutique firm, plans to stay a boutique firm, and a mix of employees and consultants, like brilliant people. And we work at the intersection of your business strategy, your people strategy, and your culture. And small to mid-market companies helping them figure out how to create a competitive advantage in the middle of all three, right? How do you bring all three of those together to truly propel your business forward in a sustainable growth approach? And so that is really our unique, because there's a lot of businesses that can do business strategy really well. There's a lot of businesses that can do leadership development and those things really well. And then there's businesses that do culture well. And we just we're really good in all three. And then we have consultants that go really deep, right? If we need to go deep in any of the three, but we're helping the business figure out how to leverage the three of those as a competitive advantage.
I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here because I didn't prep you for this at all. So if you trip over it a little bit, I'm good. Give
Bring it
me, I know I love it. Give me a success story of something that you guys as a team have done, your firm has done in the last couple years that it's just one thing that pops in your mind is that you're just really proud of.
So I can think of something that just has happened recently is, first off, throughout COVID, I'm proud of how we showed up, right? We didn't know any better than anybody else what the hell to do. But we just doubled down on giving, which is our first core value, right? Help first. And, how could we create templates and like have these conversations with your people? And here's a good way to approach making sure your team's connected and all of these things. So I'm super proud of how we handled it. And I know it's the reason that we're on supercharged growth right now is because we were there for people for free when they needed us the most. So I'm proud of that, but I'm also proud of the change that we invoke in our clients in terms of leadership. So a perfect example is a GC, general contractor client, that in their annual planning in the last few months, right, their general soup, right, the guy that comes into every session in his vest, his neon, vest, like from the job site, he wears it all day long. It's just literally who he is, right? A man's man. And he came into the annual session after, we've been working with them for 3 years or so, and said, if we do nothing else in the next 2 days, we have to ensure that we have a plan for the mental health of our guys in the field, right? Touchy-feely. We have to care for our people. And it was probably one of my proudest moments in everything we do, because I was like, he gets it. He gets what I've been talking about for 3 years, not in his face, like you need to be a better leader. He gets it. He's been listening. It's like your kids, right? When you're like, oh my God, do they hear anything I say? And then they get a little bit older and you're like, wow, like that's a pretty good human, right? That I've created because they were watching and they were listening. And so it's those moments. It's not these like magnitude moments of like 25% revenue growth, year over year. It's those leadership moments that I'm most proud of, because for us, it's the long game.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's those small shifts to make people better that really impact us.
Yeah, and I know you're a big believer in empathy and leadership, and I mean it's a little bit of a no-brainer, but it doesn't come natural to a lot of people, and especially in a industry like that where it's very kind of rough around the edges. To hear something like that from someone in the field working with laborers, that has to just that makes you get up in the morning the next day just feeling so ready to go.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the future of Keystone. So we know what you do now, and I've been watching some of the stuff that you've got going on and hearing some of the expansion plans. So talk about where you're going from a business standpoint and how you're wanting to help more different clients.
Yeah, so we are planning kind of a regional expansion in the next year or so to the Sioux Falls area. Primarily because we just have amazing clients there, and they're kind of bringing us there, right, with their networks, and it's a small town. It's a very different feel from Minneapolis, and they're both great in just different ways. And so it's a big expansion, opening an office at a distance, which is, a growth opportunity for me. Is how do you lead from a distance like that, right, and strategize and create relationships. So that's a big growth. And then within the next 5 years, I think we'll have a third office. We're kind of noodling around where that is going to be. I've got some ideas on where I want it to be. So we've got some work to do more because of places I want to be. Yeah. And so I think there's going to be that opportunity. Our growth is really in the culture space right now. And I love that, because that's what we've been talking about for 5 years. And the last year, every business had different circumstances over the last year. We validated more than we ever have in the previous, years before that, that what we're doing is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are open to having the conversation. So I'm so grateful actually for the silver lining of what the last year produced, is that we've gotten a lot more vulnerable and open about the cracks in our foundation as our business, because we all have them, right? We all have things we need to work on in our business, and that culture and leadership level. Do we have true emotionally intelligent leaders? And if we don't just get rid of them, right? But we have to teach them how to be that way. We
Right.
can't just throw them into the deep end of the pool because they're the smartest in a certain area, right? Or they've been here the longest in an area, and expect them to be effective leaders. And so I just feel like the level of conversation we're able to have now, and we're having it nationally, right? So that's exciting too. Not that I want to be traveling all over, but we're really starting to feel our PR go a little bit national because of the kind of work we're doing. And it's because of our clients, right? It's not because we're doing billboards somewhere. It's because our clients are talking to other people, right? Their peers in other markets. And so I think there's a national play for us in some way in the next 5 years too.
You said something really interesting there, and I want to ask you another specific question. So, if you're working with a client and they have someone on their leadership team that they know that this person has a ton of potential, just lacks empathy or just hasn't worked that muscle, they've maybe got their guard up. It's a little bit more of an old school mentality when it comes to leadership. How do you work with a person like that?
Well, it's unique to the person, right? And where they're starting from. But I
Mhm.
truly, truly believe everyone can build the empathy muscle. It's a
Agreed.
muscle, right? If you think about it, if it's the bicep needs to be stronger, then you have to figure out what do you have to do to make the bicep stronger. But what I need to do is go from 5 pounds to 10 pounds. You might need to go from 15 to 20. And so you've got to assess where the leader is at. Um, Now, I think everyone can build the muscle. The difference is, does everybody want to build the muscle?
Mhm.
So what I'm really good at and what our team is good at is, I think it's our superpower, is assessing intuitively pretty early on whether that leader can build the muscle. So this General Soup that I talked about,
Mhm.
right? Rough around the edges, but from the very first time I met him, I was like, he's got leadership qualities,
Yeah.
right? They're there. We
Yeah.
just need to pull them out. We need to help him figure out how to use them for good, right? To use them and make it more powerful. It's make it a superpower. So there are times where there are leaders that just shouldn't be leaders.
Mhm.
They should be a principal, right? A really, really smart person in what they're good at, but they shouldn't be a leader.
Right.
And so that's where we get into with our clients, and we have those conversations with the business owner or the business leader, not day one, but
Right.
once we've built the trust, we have it. We just plant the seed and say we need to get them some help, but we also need to be really self-aware that if it's not going to work, you need to be able to make a decision because it will be a detriment to your business. Our approach is tough love.
Yeah.
We are part best friend, part challenging mentor. Like, we're going to be in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder, helping you solve the problem, but we're also going to kick you in the ass when you need it, because you need people around you that will do that and tell you the way it really is. So, long answer to, you've got to figure out where to start, and you got to start simple to start to
Yeah.
see the momentum, because the leader needs to feel it, just like anything. If I want to lose weight and I can't lose a pound, eventually I'm going to give up.
Mhm.
If I want to become a better leader and I can't see the result of me changing, right, kind of getting uncomfortable, you have to have the small wins for them to see, like, wow, that was a totally different interaction with that person and it feels better to me. I want to do more of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it takes time.
Agreed. So you said the term kick ass, and it's in the title of your book, all right, the part of the title. So I have my copy right here for those that are people that are watching on video. Talk about the book. I'm super pumped for you. We're going to be launching this podcast after your release date, so people are going to be able to buy this book.
Perfect.
So what was the inspiration behind writing this book, and how does it correlate with all your different experiences and the things we just talked about?
Yeah. So the number one reason I wrote this book was for impact. Um, Same reason I started a podcast 3 years ago was I would have lunch or coffee with people that I, had been in my network for a long time and were struggling with something, and I'd give them a different perspective, right? Or kind of help get them unstuck. And I'd get texts afterwards, like, you got to figure out how to bottle this, right? How to share this, because the one-to-one, I can only do so much. And so I was pushed to kind of start the podcast. And I was nervous about it because it's, as you know, you're putting yourself out there and your opinions and your beliefs and kind of for the trolls, right, to react to. And so it was a scary thing. But this is just a continuation of that, because when I did the podcast, I knew that my message could have a broader ripple effect to people I will never meet. Right. And that's great. I don't need to meet them all. And so the book is a continuation of that, right? It's a continuation of the reason I started the podcast, and it's a continuation of the ripple effect that I feel like I could spread even further. And the premise of the book is, it's called You Are Here, Kick-Ass Inspiration for Navigating Your Journey to Success. And the inspiration is really I tell a lot of vulnerable stories, right? I talk a lot about my failures and my moments that aren't so glorious. But I also talk about the lessons and the truths and the principles that I've learned along the way and that I'm still learning. And I want it to be a reference manual for people to say, that's the thing I'm stuck on right now. Not the whole book, just go to that truth. And I'm stuck on that today. And I'm going to read the 5-minute truth about this and, hopefully shift my perspective. Because we all, again, those plateaus, those hitting the ceilings every decade, every 7 years, we all deal with these exact same points of stuck. They just show up differently throughout life. Yeah. So what you're stuck on and I'm stuck on, we could be 15 years apart in age and we could be hitting the same thing, right? That's keeping us stuck at that point. And I want to normalize that for people, because as leaders, I think we carry a lot of baggage. We carry a lot of feelings of I'm the only one and something's wrong with me. I'm broken. Yeah. Right. And it's male and female. I think females maybe carry it a bit more and for longer, but this idea of like, I'm doing something wrong because I feel this way. Right. And I want this book to be normalizing, to say, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just stuck. So figure out a way to get unstuck.
And I think there's, you said something in there, and you mentioned it earlier in our conversation that, the term leaders, I believe it doesn't relate to management, right? So I think some people, a lot of our listeners will right away correlate that to like being in a management position. But to me, everyone is a leader in their lives, in, whether it be personal or professional, it doesn't matter. So the one thing I thought about, there's a couple comments I'll make about the book. One is it's the perfect length. I think for me, who basically reads at like, right, it's like 150 pages for a guy like me that reads at a second grade level, that is good. And then two, I love the fact that it's feels a little bit more like a little bit like a manual or a guide, because then it doesn't feel like you have to, for non-readers, you don't have to read the whole thing at one sitting. You can chunk it off, and it gives you opportunities to get inspired through a story, and then a little bit of things to think about and a little bit of work to do.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was its intent. So I'm glad.
Good. Well, with all the things that you have going on with Keystone and with your podcast and with this book, you are a very busy individual, and the impact that you're making. And we had Chelsea on the show a few weeks ago. You two are a dream team. Like I when I did introduce you guys last night to some friends, I called you the queens of culture. And really that is the way I'm going to leave it, because you have created such a great, and you use the term boutique, and I love that, but it is a very boutique, personalized feel for a firm. And the things you two are doing and the rest of your team, you guys are rock stars.
Thank you for that.
Awesome.
We got something special. We got a secret sauce, and the more and more people are starting to recognize it, which is fun.
Yeah, that is fun. All right. We're hard transitioning to 9 questions.
Okay. Listen.
Pull yourself together.
So just so everybody knows, last night, Aaron and his wife, Tiffany, were at this event. And as I was leaving the event, like, I'm having anxiety about these 9 questions because I've listened to all the other podcasts. Okay. And not because almost because I'm an open book, I'm like, I gotta be careful how I answer some of these, because my kids might listen I'm actually nervous. And I was trying to get the questions out of Aaron last night, and he refused to give me them.
Sorry. Here's
So
the one thing I'll tell you. I'm going to try and ask questions where you can use the F-bomb as much as possible. I'm just kidding.
thank you. But I'm pit sweating right now over these questions. So
All right.
go, just get it over with.
All right. Calm down. All right. So you just confirmed that you have no idea. So I asked that of every guest. So I'm going to just dig right into it.
Okay.
Number one, what was your first concert?
Oh, Dave Matthews Band. I was a sophomore in high school, and I got my first contact high because it was inside in Des Moines, but it was like, oh my goodness, everyone around me is smoking pot, and I'm, 16 years old.
Yeah,
but it was a great concert.
I got a contact high too when I went to a Dave Matthews concert. I was a little bit older, but I did. Maybe it was my first one.
Oh my God, I hope my parents don't listen to this because they'll be like, seriously, at 16? So yeah.
That's the least of their worries. All right. Number two, what is one quality in a person that impresses you?
Oh, confidence. And not like confident, presence is probably a better word. Like I know those people I want to know are people that just their energy attracts you in, right?
Yeah.
They just have that charisma, put whatever word you want on it. But that is a quality in people that I want around me because they fill my bucket. Like they challenge me, and I just love that.
Yeah. There's a certain vibe that you get that energy off, and then it brings your energy level up another notch too. Okay. I feel the same way. Yeah. Okay. What is one guilty pleasure that you like to indulge in?
Oh, guilty pleasure. I'm a binge watcher. So it's stupid. Like I'm binge watching Dynasty, the new remake of Dynasty right now. I can't believe I'm sharing.
What is that? There's a new remake of Dynasty?
And it's so dramatic and like, Dynasty, what you have in your head, they have made it over again with just ridiculous drama. And I am sucked in. It's like my husband's like, I can't believe you're watching this. Like, it's so stupid, but it's so dramatic so my guilty pleasure is like stupid, dramatic Netflix shows like that. And I can binge watch for like 6 hours.
Right. And you can just lose yourself in them so you don't have to be all, yeah. All right. Good answer. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Oh, easy. And I've got to figure out when we're planning this is I really want to go to Fiji, Bora Bora and stay in one of those huts over the water where you wake up in the morning and it's glass on the bottom and you're seeing the fish swim around. Like it's number one on my bucket list.
Yeah. That looks amazing. That would be awesome. Take pictures when you go.
Yeah.
All right. Do me a favor. Close your eyes.
Okay.
What is your favorite sound?
Oh, waves. Water, ocean.
Yeah, I love it. It's surprising to me how many people say just the sound of the ocean. Oh. And the other thing too is, so I do this where I talk about either your favorite sound or your favorite smell. A lot of people say there's the smell of the ocean.
I would have answered the same thing.
Really? Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, we're turning this show into like a big social science experiment. All right. You are the host of the Superpower Success podcast. So shameless plug there. That was very organic. Tell me what your superpower is.
So there's a couple, or there's two that really stand out for me that I talk about with other leaders as I'm trying to show them how to talk about theirs, because it's hard for people to talk about what they're really good at, especially in Minnesota. My number one is empathy. From a very early age, and it really stems back to the story to come full circle from my mom, is she was so philanthropic, right? We would need the services of of some philanthropic organization, but we would also be donating our time at the same time. And so that empathy was instilled in me at a very early age and helped me in my corporate career so much. And again, empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is sit in the seat and go, man, you're right, this sucks. How can I help? Right? How can we move forward? And so I have an ability to do that, which really helps me in working with clients because I can help them communicate better, right? Or help them get through a big implementation of something because I can help them see it from a different perspective. And then my second one is maximizer. And that's from Strength Finders, but it's just a really good word to put on it. I can walk into an organization 2 hours in, understand the lay of the land, and know if people are in the right seats or not. Like, I just know how to put the puzzle pieces together, and I don't do it right away. I don't share it right away, but I know when something's not going to work, right? For that person, or that I just know how to get the most out of what I naturally see as people's strengths.
So
So,
this is not part of your 9 questions, but I'm going to ask this because it popped into my brain. So how do you utilize your maximizer strength being a mom of 4 and trying to like keep your shit together at home?
right. Well, I treat all of my kids differently. I
Yeah.
treat them according to their strengths. And I think it's a huge fallacy for parents, is that it has to be equal, and it has to be, now it has to be fair,
Yeah.
but I treat them all in different ways. I know what their strengths are, like down to the chore list that is on my counter right now.
Yeah.
I know what they like and what they actually do a good job on, and the ones they suck at, I don't give them
Yeah.
over and over again, because then I'm mad when it doesn't get done. And so I know how to do that. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. None of them would say I'm good at it.
Yeah.
But I really believe I am. I know what their natural strengths are, and I know how to get more out of them.
Good. All right. Good answer. Everyone wants to be treated like an individual, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you could be any animal, what animal would you be and why?
Oh, Christ. I haven't dropped an F-bomb yet, by the way. You're failing miserably.
I know that was a joke anyway.
Wow. What would I be? It'd be something in the ocean. I just love the freedom of, we were in Hawaii, right? Whale watching and dolphins, and the way they migrate, and it's like they never stay in one place, So it'd be a whale, a dolphin, something like that, where you just have the freedom, and it just feels like the ocean is just the magnitude of it. There's like no limits.
Yeah. Let's just say dolphin. Those things are amazing. The way they just come firing out of the water through the air, and all the things they can do. Plus, dolphins can kill sharks. Let's just call it how it is. That to me is a big deal.
And you can feel, like, if you read the studies on dolphins, like they have a human aspect to them, right? They can actually read, and like more than any other kind of animals, I think. And so that's beautiful too.
They're like the dog of the sea.
Correct. Right.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah. Just made that up. All right. All right. You cannot use your superpowers. So I'm going to just say this for this next question. What are 3 words that describe you?
Oh, stubborn in a good way, hopefully most of the time, driven, and tough love. I know that's not one word, but I really, really have come into my own about figuring out how to harness this challenging mentor kick in the ass. And I just really know how to bring good to the world by using those 2 things.
Yeah, good. That's like the good way of saying, that's the good part of stubborn to me a little bit, right? Yeah, like
right.
All right.
So I failed. I only really gave you 2, but
well, you gave 2 words for the third one. So somewhere in the middle lies 3. So right.
Average it out. It's
fine. We're not here for math. This isn't a math podcast.
I would not be on this podcast if we were here for math.
Right.
Just clear.
And I wouldn't be hosting it. All right. Last question. You're almost there. What is the single best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Oh, success leaves clues. My mom, she taught it to me when I was a teenager. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And she said it to me no less than 1,000 times since then. I write about it in the book, is success leaves clues. Okay? You've got to pay attention to what's going on around you. And we get so lost in full speed ahead, 150 miles an hour, that we don't see the off ramp that maybe we should consider. We don't see the door that just opened a little bit, that we should like go, what's over there? If success is putting these things around us and in our peripheral vision. And I think about it almost daily. Like, wow. Why does this person keep coming in and out of my world, right? Unplanned. There's a reason. So I just dig a bit deeper, right? I do some soul searching on why. And so I've just gotten really good at paying attention.
Yeah, that is a good one. I'll tell you, I've never heard that before. That is a very good one. And talks a little bit about being present, right? Don't think too far in the future. Don't wallow in the past. Be very much in the moment. I love that. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks,
Jamie,
Robin.
you made it. You did it.
And
You
they're
made
not
all.
bothering anymore either. It's great.
Right. These weren't that bad. My
No.
wife threatened me that if they were that hard, that I would have hell to pay. So it was good
I
that
love
you
her, by the
eliminated.
way, almost more than I love you. So just, Tiffany, you're amazing.
Yeah, I knew you two would hit it off. Jamie, you're so great. I've loved getting to know you and become friends with you over the last 18 months. My COVID buddy, and it's so fun to have built a relationship with you over the last 18 months.
Ditto.
Yeah, I love it. So, listeners, on behalf of Jaime Taets, this has been the Power of Nine podcast, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time. Thank you very much. Hey everyone, it's me again. Just wanted to point out one more thing. I forgot to ask Jamie where you can find her. So, in the show notes are going to be a series of links on where you can find her business, her LinkedIn profile, her Superpower Success podcast, and lastly, the book that she just released. So, check those out, and thank you again for listening. See ya.